today we are going to kind of review the first Thor movie, go over stuff we liked, plot, characters, all that stuff, and we'd also like to apologize for the lack of videos for the past, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay. We apologize for that.
Yes.
We're planning on that not happening again, but it probably will.
So we're going to release 2 videos this week to make up for it. So,
yes.
Enjoy.
All right, let's start. Okay, do you want to start off?
Sure. So, the first character I did, obviously, was Thor.
I mean, he's
the main character.
You can't just not do him.
So, what did you think about Thor overall?
I don't know. One of the main things I had, and this is where the spoilers come in, was when Thor got his power back, because at that time, Thor just became such a loved character by everyone, and so, everyone was super emotional that, he died, or he seemed like he was dead. And then, so I thought that was just the impact he had on the other characters, because when that happened, Odin was in his,
Odin sleep.
Yes,
I have
Odin
notes
sleep.
on that because I was confused as to what it was.
Yes, well, when he was in the Odin sleep, during that scene, he shed a tear, and that's when Thor got his powers back. So I just thought that was interesting, how Thor is, just, kind of giving himself up to Loki, allowed for that to happen. So, I don't know, and I like Thor. I think he's a really cool character. He's different than a lot of the other Marvel characters in the sense that, I feel like normally, if that was the case, no god would, just be a part of the Avengers or something. So I think it's interesting that he would do that. So, yeah. That's my thoughts.
And more about that scene, I'm actually just thinking of this now, but kind of the way that Thor is all right, I'm willing to die if it will save these other people, it kind of reminded me of Harry Potter. How Harry Potter, again, spoilers, he has to go into the forest and Voldemort has to kill him for everybody else to be able to kill Voldemort. And so that kind of reminded me of that a little bit because they both know they have to die to save everyone else.
And I feel like that's a very common theme with movies and books, is just the fact that by the end, someone just learns that, they have to do something to allow everyone else to complete the task. And usually it's giving up their lives or giving up something of their character. And I find that really interesting, and, usually how willing they are to do it.
Mm-hmm. So, Loki. What do you think?
Well, I like Loki. I think he's very cool because, in the first movie, it doesn't show up as prominently as it does in the other movies, but it's just the way he's not a good guy. He's not a hero, but he's not a bad guy either. He's on his own side. He does stuff that'll benefit him, which, I guess that could be seen as both hero and villain. Whatever perspective you're looking at it, it'll look like one or the other. But it really is both. He doesn't do anything that would convince you that he's fully villain or fully hero, because he just does things that at the time will either give him power or reward, just any type of reward. So I always find that interesting about his character.
So I think the part that made me start to just love Loki was how relatable that he is. When he finds out that he's a frost giant, he's just so heartbroken that his insecurities are true, that he's not the same as everybody else. And then at the very end, when they're battling in the Bifrost, Loki just is so heartbroken, and if you look closely, he's actually crying while he's doing that. So I think that was just the point where it was people really start to relate with Loki, and then that kind of through the books, or not the books, through the movies, you kind of like Loki more and more.
And just going to comment one quick thing is I feel like once people have a certain perception about someone, they don't look beyond that perception. Because I always thought Draco was a super awesome character in Harry Potter, but other people just thought of him as the bad guy since he was Slytherin. And that's how most Slytherins are looked at. But if you look at some of the characters, they actually like become better people throughout the books and the movies. And it just, if you get stuck on one perception, you miss so much like story about that one person. And a lot of the time, they become more relatable as a person just going through. So, just a quick comment.
All right. Moving on to Jane.
Do you want to start commenting on her first?
Sure. So I had mixed feelings about Jane. I think that she needed to have more willpower, and she was a little bit too awestruck by Thor. Like, I get it. He's cute, but like, I like it when female characters are strong and they play hard to get, and like, they're not just like all lovey-dovey and whatnot. So I think she needed a little bit more of a backbone, but I think that she's still pretty cool. I mean, she's this brilliant, awesome woman, and of course the actor was fabulous at portraying her. So,
and I agree. I really like the fact that she like was super smart, and she had like this whole lab, and like she did so much of it, and she had like an intern and stuff. I just thought it was really cool how she like developed all that and stuff, and I could see why she kind of gave in to helping Thor just because he promised to give her her stuff back. But again, I do kind of wish on the romantic side of the spectrum that she was a little bit more like hesitant.
And then, did you have any other comments on any of the other characters like Eric or Darcy?
Darcy.
Darcy's
I love her. She has a bit of an attitude, and it's just like, it's great. Like, it just in the second movie, like when she gets her own intern, it's like the way she does things are just, it's so funny to me. I love Darcy.
Yeah. All right. Odin. I think that he is definitely very wise about things, but the way he goes about executing things is quite poor. Like, for instance, with Loki, like, you told, like, when Loki figured out he was a frost giant, Odin told him, I was hoping to unite the two of us. Well, you could have, like,
prepared him for that earlier.
And told him, like, what he was, so that maybe you could have done that, like, with him helping, not just, like...
Like, the way he found out, really, like, that could have been prevented, and that would have, like, helped eliminate the hostility towards Thor and Odin, because it's just, like, that can be heartbreaking. So, like, the way he did it, I felt like, how you said, it could have been executed a lot easier and smoother, and a lot of the events that happened. I mean, that's why there was a movie, because this happened.
Well, yeah.
But, like, in a realistic sense, like, it could have been handled better.
Yeah, definitely. And just totally random, I thought it was hilarious after not that Odin banished Thor, but afterwards when Loki is trying to, like, provide, I don't know what word I'm trying to say, like wisdom or like, hold on, I wrote it down. Provide reason for Odin, like calm him down, like don't banish Thor, like whatnot. He just like, he doesn't say anything. He just kind of screams, and I thought that was just like really weird and out of character for Odin because he's so like regal and
like calm and like collected.
So I just thought that was very out of character. So going back to the Odin's, what is it called? The Odin sleep. So there were a lot of questions circulating around the internet that I found doing a little bit of research. Like one of the questions was, why was Thor going to be appointed king?
Yes, queen. Yes, Thor's going to be
Odin
queen.
is immortal. And so what I found was that Thor has gained control of the Odin Force. Don't ask me why it's named after Odin. It's been around longer than Odin. And he's actually driven slightly insane by it. So that might account for some of his
Actions.
arrogance and stupid,
like why he
stupid
actually
decisions.
followed Loki's idea of going to
So
yeah, that place.
and then like we see this kind of play out through all of the movies, but in Norse mythology, each king of Asgard dies in a Ragnarok. So it's not just Ragnarok is one event. Every king has a Ragnarok. So
the end of the world for that king.
Mm-hmm. So they pass the title before this happens so that they can teach their heir to kind of use the Odin Force. And it's usually unpredictable to figure out when Ragnarok is going to occur. So you just kind of need to be prepared for it.
Yeah, it's like an unpredictable, and it's almost like they hadn't the thought, whereas if they kept like passing it down through their heirs, that would prevent Ragnarok or like delay it. But yeah, it's...
And then the Odin sleep is just they're recharging the Odin Force. Kind of like in Guardians of the Galaxy, like the light in the middle, how Ego has to return to the planet before, like every once in a while, so that he can replenish his powers or whatever. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, is that everything? Oh, no, it's not. Okay.
So, the very end, like the post-credit scene, did anyone else think that Loki had already possessed Eric?
I see, the thing with that scene that confused me, so I understood that was when Eric was like possessed, because you saw him going into like this facility, and it was like like it had security guards, and it seemed like it was on lockdown. Almost.
Well, so Eric wasn't actually already possessed.
That's what I thought.
Loki wasn't on Earth yet, because they're just getting introduced to the Tesseract. So when Loki falls, there's a few theories as to where he ended up. Most think that he was saved by the Chitauri? I don't know if I said that right. And Thanos actually leads the Chitauri. I did not know that.
But that makes Avengers make sense.
Yeah. So he was saved by the Chitauri. Thanos gives him the scepter. Eric is not possessed yet. He is, like, Loki is just kind of, he has powers, right? So he's kind of projecting his thoughts into Eric's head, but not possessing him, if that makes any sense.
Well, and then another thing is, like, where did Loki even think to, like, control Eric? And then I feel like that's just from the last, like, the battle, from when, like, Jane and all of them were there. Mm-hmm. And he just observed that and seeing that, like...
And he probably somehow figured out that Eric had some connection with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Because he does mention that in the movie. Mm-hmm. So, Loki falls, he's got the thing, and I actually noticed 3 Infinity Stones have been, well, not technically introduced, but they have been shown in Thor. The Tesseract, the Scepter, and the Ether.
The Scepter is its own one? Really?
Yeah, it's the, hold on. It's the Mind Stone.
Right.
Because they take it out of the Scepter.
Yeah,
in
okay.
Vision.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In Age of Ultron. So,
yeah.
I was like, wow.
Well,
so maybe that means that I don't want to get into that too much yet.
Yeah.
They might have a huge role in Infinity War.
They probably will. But that's interesting. Mm-hmm. I didn't really take that into account.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I was like, why did Thanos give Loki the scepter? Like, he wants to collect the Infinity Stones. Why would you give them away?
And I feel like that's a thing just to collect more using the Infinity Stones.
He was actually using Loki to confront the Avengers. And because it's the Mind Stone, there's a theory that the Mind Stone can actually read minds. And that Thanos was listening in on the entire first Avengers movie through the Mind Stone.
See, that doesn't... To me, I feel like that wouldn't make sense. Because I feel like then Thanos would actually, like, at least try and save Loki from, like, prison for the next movie.
He couldn't get through. That was the whole point of the movie, is Loki was trying to open a portal so that the Chitauri and Thanos could get through to Earth.
Right. Okay, that makes sense then.
So, anyway.
Yeah, remember to geek out.